Good morning, friends, wherever you are, and welcome to today's Cichlids and Coffee live stream. I hope wherever you are, you're having a cup of your favorite Joe. The technical issues we ran into last week have been resolved. It was a matter of getting some updates from NVIDIA. They make the graphic driver for my computer, and apparently I was missing an update. Oh yeah. So how are you all today? I may have to open up a gate and let my dog go upstairs. He's whining a little bit, but anyway, we'll see. You let me know if you can hear him. So give me an AV check. How is the AV check, my friends? Let me know how the sound and video is looking. And we're going to be getting into one of my favorite topics, which is filter media and just filters in general. I love talking about filters. And I'm also going to be giving away a handful of some very high quality probiotic food from my friends over at SERA. SERA is a very highly scientific, as you might expect out of Germany, right? And they make just a wide range of food. And they sent over to me a couple things, and I'll show you. And this is what has sort of inspired me to go ahead and give away some of this. They sent me I let Klaus, my friend at SERA, know that I was getting into discus, and he sent me Discus Immune Pro growth food. I wasn't even aware that they made discus food, but somebody made a comment from Europe about how they were using the SERA food and getting a lot of great results. Discus granules, a staple food. They also sent me some discus color, which is just sort of a natural formula to add color. It doesn't have any dyes, no preservatives, and it's just discus color. They also included a little bit of what they call ONIPs. And these are tablets that you just stick them on the glass and the fish go crazy over them. If you can see them there, ONIPs. And I tried them last night. I put some at the front of the glass of the planted community tank. I put it with the discus. I also dropped, I put one in the 90-gallon, but it got ripped off the glass immediately by the red spotted severum. You can see there, these are little ONIPs. ONIPs, they're called. So, at any rate, thank you, Klaus, over at SERA. Big shout out to Klaus, my friends at SERA. And Salient Aquatics, asking about Hygger products. I use a variety of Hygger products. Are they the absolute pinnacle? No, they're not. They are a middle-of-the-line product. Are they going to last as long as an FX6, let's say, or maybe something made by Seachem or Seashay, or I don't know, maybe, but I think they're more of a middle of the line. You save some money, you get a lot of bang for your buck, and I've been happy with the products. I have heaters and wave makers and hang-on backs, all from Hygger. They also have a higher end called Aqua, which I believe is the same company, but it's a higher end, just like Nissan and Infiniti or Toyota and who's the high-end Toyota? Acura? I don't know what the high-end Toyota is. But at any rate, so they have a higher-end line called Aqua. and I have some of their battery powered. Actually, I have some Hygger battery powered pumps as well. So these are the air pumps that continue working with a lithium battery backup. So yeah, I like them. I would consider them a friend and a full disclosure. I'd consider them a friend of the channel, and they have from time to time worked out what are called affiliate links, where if someone goes and buys the product, the channel would get a small percentage. So just full disclosure there. So I have had an affiliate relationship with Hygger, but in all honesty, I would put them around mid-range. They're not. I mean, a Hygger wave maker compared to, let's say, a Tons, a Hydor, some of these wave makers that you're going to pay a lot of money for. Yeah, I mean, there's a difference in the workmanship and the materials and things of that nature. So Ruben Rivera would like some stickers. Ruben, if you or anybody on the live stream would like some stickers, just go ahead and write to me at ben.o.cichlid @gmail.com, and I'll put together a packet of stickers for you. I have a channel sticker. I have a Cichlids and Coffee sticker. I also have a whole bunch of Aquarium Co-op stickers. So tell me what kind of fish you have, and maybe like I've got a beautiful rainbow stickers. I've got coolie loaches. I've got clown loaches. I've got maybe a discus. I've got a whole bunch of Aquarium Co-op fish stickers. So anyway, if you want some stickers, go ahead and write to me. Denny, GP, and everybody else, thanks for the AV check. Big shout out to my wonderful moderators. I refer to them as the best on YouTube. So we're going to talk about media, what some people call biofilter media, and here's an example. CChem matrix, and some people will argue that CChem matrix is just pumice, and you can get the same thing at a garden. If you talk to CChem, they'll tell you that these are special pieces of pumice. You make your own mind up on that. It looks a lot like the pumice that I get at a garden store, but the point of it, just like the point with BioHome, the point with Bio Rings, the point with any of it, even the blue balls, the point with all of it is surface area. And whether you're breaking up lava rock, using garden pumice, using matrix, using BioHome, using SERA, Ciporax, whatever you're using, the key is, of course, is getting a lot of surface area. But when you put together a filter, and let me get into this topic a little bit, but let me start off by doing some normal and customary shout outs here. First one is to Corey, Zenzo, and the gang over at Aquarium Co-op. A big shout out to the Aquarium Co-op for all they do to help the channel. They recently helped me with a lot of plants that you saw me put into the discus tank. Discus tank is looking awesome. Those plants are looking great. I'm looking at them from here. Absolutely phenomenal. So a big shout out to my friends at Aquarium Co-op. As a matter of fact, it's the... let me just go ahead and... Let me get the right screen up here. It's the Aquarium Co-op that got me sort of inspired for today's video. Let me see if it's on here. Nope, I keep doing that same thing. Okay. This is going to be there it is. I had to find it in the mix of media that I have. But I watched a video by Corey called 60 Days to a Seasoned Aquarium, and it just got me thinking. And sometimes one of the ways I get topics for weekends, for live streams and for videos in general is I'll watch the content of other fish, other YouTubers, and very often that can inspire me. And so that was kind of the inspiration. I said, I recommend you watch that video. It's a good video. But a big shout out to them. Also a very big shout out to Josh over at Cunningham Tropicals. And let me just bring up his. Now he's changed something. What he's done is he's eliminated the 10% for dry goods. So from now on, you can just use ben.o.cichlid on all purchases, and you'll get a flat 15% off. And I have been using his flakes and some of his food with the discus. They love it. I try and use when I acquire new fish, I try and find out what the seller was feeding, and then I feed them that, and then gradually mix in other kinds of food that I want to eventually include in their diet. But just forget about that Ben.o. 10. It's 15% off everything at Cunningham Cichlid, at Cunningham Tropicals, with Ben.o. 15 as your code. Now, another big shout out to those of you who are members of the Garage Gang, my Patreon monthly supporters. Starts for as little as $3 a month. The details are under the video. So a big thank you to them. It helps out, like I like to say, in more ways than you know. The names that have asterisks next to their names are going above and beyond. And a very special double shout out to those. And of course, a shout out to all of you who subscribe and support the channel. You're all very appreciated. Now, if you want to, other ways that you can support the channel, I know some of you are doing this. If you go to Amazon, and you use my link to get to Amazon, then do your normal Amazon shopping, you will help the channel. A percentage of your purchases will help the channel. So that's a very cool way, very easy way, cost you nothing, very easy way to help the channel. And another way to help the channel is to go to the Teespring store and pick up t-shirts like the one I'm wearing and all kinds of other good swag that we have at the Teespring store. So there you go. That's it for the commercials. We are now commercial free. And let's talk a little bit about media. Now, I'll pick up your questions in a few minutes. So, and if you want me to see your question and respond to your question, I suggest that you put Ben Ochart and then your question. That way it jumps out at me on the chat. All right, so Salian, I don't think you're too far off on your comment. I don't think you're too far off. I think they are moving as fast as they can with a variety of products to try and capture as much market as they can. So, I mean, if some of you remember the bashing I gave them on their siphon system, it just doesn't work. It's kind of like it's like a toy that you would get from from a bubble gum machine. I mean, it's just not a good product. Now, that doesn't mean that they don't listen and change and innovate, but yeah, I think they are moving fast, and in some cases, getting out products maybe ahead of time. So yeah, I don't disagree with you on that. Just keeping it real at the risk of insulting somebody that helps the channel. So the misconception that I want to get into here is let's see here. Hold on. All right. So the misconception that I want to get into with you, I keep getting pop-ups from YouTube. This would be a good time to insert an ad. Okay. When you set up an aquarium, I mean, the normal sort of lineup is to you set things up. You set up your filter, whether it's a canister, hang on bag, a sump, and you put those coarse sponges in, and then you put in your biofilter media, right? And then maybe put in some chemicals. Some of you use some chemical filtration, right? Purigen, activated carbon is a type of chemical filtration, but you put that in. Very often recommended to go in last, right? And so at that point, a lot of folks go, okay, we're set. And the truth is that you're actually a ways away from being set. The key ingredient, and I'm big on key words, right? And I think we've all come to the conclusion that the number one word is patience. That's the number one word in fish keeping, is patience. The other one that I released a video on the other day was what was it? What did I learn? What was the on the back end of a tragedy, right? On the back end of something like a crash or a die off. What did I learn? Those are the other key words. But the other key word that I think we have to include in the mix, that's missing from every new aquarium setup, and you can't buy this. You can't buy this. Yeah, it is time. You need time for waste to populate. So whether it's populating on your sponges or on your biomedia, the key there is time. Now, biomedia is not necessarily, it's something you put into filters, but it's not necessarily filtering. I've had people tell me, Ben, can I just put bioballs in my hang-on bag? Now, granted, it might stop a couple big chunks, but it's not going to stop much. It's not the strict definition of a filter, something that removes unwanted things from water, from oil, from gas, from the air. It's moving particulates that are not wanted. Your biomedia is not necessarily doing that, except perhaps in a biological or chemistry type of way, in that you're populating it. You're populating it with a colony of bacteria, several types of bacteria, more than just two, but to keep it simple, aerobic and anaerobic. And so that takes time. Now your bacteria is in a bottle. They allow you to go ahead and dump in bacteria that is a bit ineffective when it's floating in the water column. It needs to settle. And once it settles, it can start to really propagate and populate and use the surface area, the top, and then over time, the deeper sections of the media can perhaps start to create anaerobic bacteria that does not rely so heavily on oxygen, right? It's anaerobic. And that's the bacteria that can get nitrate to gas off. Now, with that in mind, you start to get into the idea that Corey was discussing when he was talking about the seasoned aquarium. The seasoned aquarium being an aquarium that's been around for a while, and bacteria has had a chance to populate not just the media, but as is the case in my aquariums, my main media, if you will, right? Filter media, if you want to call it that, is substrate. I use substrate as my primary home, a deep substrate for beneficial bacteria. And for that reason, I don't do deep vacuuming. I do surface vacuuming. I leave the deeper parts of the substrate alone. I usually run a good number of inches of substrate. And point being is that anything with a surface area in your aquarium is going to be a home for beneficial bacteria eventually. So over time, your substrate is going to become more and more populated and probably become the primary home. Reason being is that you're servicing your filters. So when you service your filters, you pull out the media and you rinse it, you mess with it, and then you put it back in. So you wash off a lot of the weaker bio, the weaker anaerobic and aerobic gets washed out. But your substrate doesn't go through that process. So you have a very stable, strong bacteria colony living in that substrate. And for me, that takes between 6 and 9 months. Between 6 and 9 months, maybe even a year, before you get what we would call a very seasoned aquarium. I think this is why I was able to put 10 young, highly stressed discus, stressed from travel, into a brand new aquarium and have them all do okay. Which, by the way, I want to go ahead and let me put a timer. My timers have timed out on 2 of my tanks. Let me go ahead and put those back in. Hold on 1 second. I'll put you on fish cam here for a second. Hold on. All right. You got to spend a little time with the bigger boys behind me. So what I'm talking about here isn't really that crazy or controversial, but it might be a little different from how you do things. And I've got to you have to always say that if what you're doing is working, don't change anything. Keep doing what you're doing. But for me, the substrate is 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 my that's my biomedia. And in filters, I feel very strongly that sponges provide all the surface area that you need. Now, some people will say, well, how about if I have 5 filters or 3 FX6s? Now, you might get a little better water clarity, but you're not going to get more bio. You're only going to get the bacteria that your aquarium can keep alive and support, depending on the amount of stocking and depending on how much you're feeding. So you're only going to have the amount of beneficial bacteria, whether it's spread out over 5 filters and a deep substrate and a lot of decor and plants and whatever. You're only going to have the amount of bio that you can keep alive, and it's not going to go beyond that. The only advantage of multiple filters is that if you rotate maintenance, you're going to disrupt the beneficial bacteria less. But again, if you go with a deep substrate, you're always going to disrupt it less because you're not messing with the substrate. I don't vacuum my 90-gallon. I don't necessarily vacuum my planted community. I do a little touch up on the discus tank. This tank behind me, I don't vacuum. I do vacuum the 210, only because that pebbles, those river pebbles trap a lot of waste. So I might get in there maybe a ½ inch and do a light vacuuming. Otherwise, I leave it alone. That is my biomedia and provides all the surface area needed. And that doesn't mean that I don't have any living in my filters. Of course I do. Now, does that provide enough oxygen? People say, well, the water rushing by the media in the filter is more oxygenated. Perhaps. But either you have good oxygen levels in your tank or you don't. So if you're getting a lot of surface tension breakup because your outputs are breaking up the surface, or you have air stones that are breaking up the surface, and you're getting a CO2 oxygen exchange, your bacteria is getting oxygen. You don't need to have water rushing over it to give it oxygen. So you're providing it oxygenated water. And as you go deeper into the substrate, especially if you're using a finer substrate, the levels of oxygen will get less and less. And at that level is where you'll start getting the anaerobic after about maybe 9 months or so. Now, some people will say, well, wait a minute, isn't that going to give you sulfur gas pockets that are going to kill your fish? No, that's an old wives' tale that's been floating around, probably started in the saltwater community. If something does come out of there, it will gas off. It will gas off. It'll just go to the surface and gas off. So you don't have to necessarily worry about that. Some people have said, I had a lot of bubbles come out of my substrate and then I had a die off. Again, this may have been a coincidence, but not the reason. There might have been other things that were done. Like when that happened, you also cleaned both your filters and did deep vacuuming on a relatively new aquarium, creating an ammonia spike. So it might not have been a sulfur that bubbled. It may have been something else. So sometimes we'll assign the reason for something incorrectly because of an anecdotal observation. But those are my 2 cents. Whether you agree with them or not, I certainly would like to get into in the discussion. And talking about Corey, and I see I'm going to be visiting Corey, assuming the weather cooperates and it's not snowing. I'm going to be visiting Corey next week, so there's going to be no live stream next week. I'm going to be in Seattle at my niece's wedding, and I rented a car and I'm going to shoot up there to see Corey's setup. I'm excited to do that. Maybe get a little footage while I'm there. That should be a lot of fun. So let's see what comments you might have about the today's topic. And then I have a number written on this little post-it. And that person is going to win a handful of very high quality SERA probiotic. This is food. You can feed it directly. You can just mix it in with what you've been feeding. And it is, again, a very well-researched, I mean, they've just got like a fish keeping laboratory in Germany. They also sent me this real nice calendar. It's got some pictures of beautiful fish along with discussing some of their products and also some of the environmental issues that they involve themselves in that help protect and restore waterways. And I'm not even sure how you could get a picture into their calendar. I'm sure they probably have some, maybe they run some sort of contest in Germany or something. But they have everything from turtles to fish. And of course, these tie into the kind of products they sell. They sell turtle food and betta food. And they also had a picture of an apisto that was just beautiful at the back here. Let me see if I can find it. Another big turtle. They got shrimp. They sell shrimp food. Look at this guy. You know, I've thought about doing an apistogramma tank. They're so pretty. They're small, but they're just really, really pretty fish. So let's take a look at some of your comments and tell me what you think about biomedia. Jerry's Fish Room in the house. Jerry, did you notice I wore a Jerry's Fish Room t-shirt in a recent video? Did you pick that up? Let's see here. Fishberg, deep substrate and optimized stocking. Overstocking seems to be more prevalent on the cichlid side. Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, that's what you see normally. The thinking being we need to spread out the aggression, make it harder for a fish to select out a particular fish to beat up. The tank behind me is probably at 1/3 of what most African cichlid keepers like to keep in their tank. So, but once you get fish that are this big, it's a little bit difficult to add fish because I've got to find a fish that's big enough. I've got this beautiful gar that was sent to me by Josh, and he's just over he's around 5 inches. You'd say, well, that's a decent sized fish. He's going to look really peewee in the tank behind me, where a lot of the guys in there are 10, 11 inches. So he looks pretty big in the divided 29 gallon. Now, that might work to his advantage because being small, he's not going to be looked at as a threat. And so what will probably happen is the fish will just ignore him, like they did with the other fish that were added, like the group I added from Fritz over at Beantown Aquatics. I think they were small and so unthreatening that the other fish just kind of went, yeah, whatever, you know. And you're not encroaching on my territory. You're sort of a not really an issue for me. All right. Zach has 16 peacocks and haps in a 75 gallon. That's, once they get, full size, that's going to be a load. That's going to be a load. And what does that mean? That means bigger water changes, more frequent water changes, to really, kind of keep the water quality, because they're going to be polluting a lot. Now, also keep in mind that you're going to have a very large and abundant beneficial bacteria colony, because they're producing a tremendous amount of ammonia that's going to be consumed and converted to nitrite, and ultimately consumed and created and turned into nitrate, right? And so your aquarium, on the one hand, you can look at it and go, wow, that's heavily stocked. But once the bacteria has caught up, it's going to be a very, very bacteria-rich environment. So overstocking is not necessarily a bad thing if you stay on top of your maintenance. Do your water changes, maintain those filters. Now, Salient, you said something about their skimmers. I don't necessarily use their skimmers, so I can't really comment on that. But I also will say this: contact them. I have had luck. I've had luck contacting them, and they have worked on. They've listened to me about improving products, and they should swap it out if it's under warranty. All right, I am cruising the chat. Randall has a question. Let's see what Randall wants to ask about here. I got a new, larger tank that is now cycled after a few weeks. I took out 2/3 of the fish from older, smaller tank on Thursday. The smaller tank is now cloudy. What happened? Well, you might have had a bacteria die off because you were not feeding, as opposed to a bacteria bloom. You probably messed with things when you were taking the fish out, but you changed the balance of the aquarium. And now that aquarium is rebalancing itself. So I wouldn't worry too much about it. Just let it go. See if it clears up on its own. If you get really anxious about it, you can add some Purigen, some pinky floss, or some crib batting, right? Some polyfill to your filter. It'll clear up. It will clear up. It sounds like you might have messed with things a little bit and sort of rebooted the tank. Maybe got a bacterial bloom of some kind, maybe even an algae bloom. But without really looking at it, it's a little hard to tell. I'm just sort of guessing, but I would just give it some time. Don't, we're back to the word patience. Just let it run its course. You can do a water change. You can always pull some of that cloudy water out and then drop a little bit of a binder in there, like is it Seachem Clarity? I always get them mixed up. But there's some binding products you can buy that will bind those cloudy particles so that your filter can capture them, makes them bigger. But it should settle and clear up over time. So I wouldn't worry. Now, what are your test results? Now, if you told me that it's cloudy and I'm getting an ammonia and an ammonia reading, that would confirm that you rebooted, that you sort of something got off, some bacteria died off. You're definitely going to have a bacteria die off because you remove their food source. So you stop feeding the bacteria. Sometimes people will do what is called phantom feeding. They'll have a tank that goes from 15 fish to 2 fish because they take some out. But then they'll still drop in a little bit of food, a little bit of maybe some frozen krill, just to keep a little bit of decay going, which is producing ammonia, and keep the beneficial bacteria alive. And sometimes people refer to that as phantom feeding. All right, let's see here. Yeah, Proverbs 21:19. That's sort of along the line I was thinking. That's you and I are on the same track. Michael, that's kind of a rule to live by. And one of the popular T-shirts at my Teespring store is for success, mess less. And so in that video that I talked about earlier, the one where Corey talked about getting a seasoned tank, he made a very interesting comment towards the end of the video where he said that very often a dirty looking tank is healthier than a pristine, clean looking tank. And then he went on to sort of quantify or elaborate, and he said that that's the case more with a brand new tank. So if you have a brand new tank that hasn't had the time to become seasoned, to really get that bacteria going, and you have it pristine, you've vacuumed, you cleaned your filters, you've scraped the glass, you've done everything, chances are it's not as healthy as if you had just left it alone. Then after 6 months, 9 months, a year, an established, seasoned, pristine tank is actually a healthy tank, but not when it's a brand new tank. I thought that was a very interesting observation on his part. Yeah, Jeremy is pointing out that the tank behind me, the yellow fish, which is probably the Buccochromis rhodesii yellow, sometimes he gets fired up, or maybe it's the fire hap. Yeah, it looks like the Bucco is a little fired up. A couple days ago, it was the fire hap that was fired up. Usually what triggers it is a water change of some sort. They do need to be fed, so they're a little bit hangry right now. So let me know in the chat if someone's killing somebody. I think one of the reasons overall the tank behind me has a lower overall amount of antagonism or aggression is because, number one, I remove overly aggressive fish. That Buccochromis will be calmed down in a day. But if they get too crazy, I take them out right away. I don't mess around with them. And also the fact that there's a lot of space. The fact that they're 7 feet across and 300 gallons, I think that makes a very big difference in a cichlid tank when it comes to aggression. The other approach would be is if you have a 6 foot 125, a 150, a 180, or even a 75, overstocking, right? Making it too distracting. So every fish is a dither fish, and so different ways to go. So, Tabaric Aquatics. I still find it hard to go all in with the bacteria in a bottle because I find it impossible to accept that you have bacteria in the absence of surface area for it to dwell and just floating around. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure of the chemistry. I'm not sure of the of everything that goes into making that happen. And it is a little bit difficult to think with. Now, wait a minute. It's sitting on the shelf. There's no ammonia being produced. There's no fish. There's no waste. There's no rotting plants. There's no little dead fish in the corner. What's feeding that bacteria that allows it to stay viable and on the shelf? Now, that would be a very interesting thing to write to CChem or write to Fritz and go, hey, how is this bacteria staying alive? I know that they've come up with some way of keeping it sort of suspended and have it be activated when it goes into an aquarium. Maybe it's a temperature change that triggers it. I don't know. But that's a good question and a honest concern. Now, that being said, I have used products like your Fritzyme and immediately added fish. And that's one of the two mistakes people make with bacteria in a bottle. One, the bottle's expired and they don't know it. And if it's expired, what does that mean? That means the bacteria is dead. Or two, they didn't condition the aquarium before adding the beneficial bacteria. So the aquarium is full of chlorine, chloramine, a little bit of ammonia, and they add the beneficial bacteria and it gets killed off immediately because that's what those products do. So you condition your tank first with your prime, right? Your Fritz Complete, whatever you're using. Then you add your bacteria in a bottle. Then immediately, as soon as you can, add fish. Because those fish will then start to feed and keep alive the bacteria. Whereas waiting, like, well, let me wait a couple of weeks, then I'll add the fish, and no, your bacteria is going to start to die off. It needs nutrients. So one of the mistakes people do is they wait too long between adding beneficial bacteria in a bottle and adding the fish. That's true, Salient. Very, very true. It is. It's a fluid situation, as I like to say. It's a constantly changing situation based on a lot of moving parts. How much you're feeding, your stocking level, the size of your fish, your maintenance schedule, how long you have your lights on, how much water move. I mean, it's you have all these moving parts, and it all impacts what it is that's going on in the aquarium. All right, I'm cruising for questions. Any other questions, go ahead and ask them. If I miss your question, don't be upset at me. And if I've missed a super chat, don't be upset at me because I haven't been looking. Let me see. Chef Steve says, filter media is just the same as my septic tank. It eats bacteria the same way. I've not touched my septic tank in 10 years, never had any problems, yet my neighbor gets his pumped out. I imagine that you're writing more there, like maybe he gets it pumped out, what, like every 6 months? I guess it depends also on the size of your septic tank. Some tanks just start to overflow. And maybe your neighbor has more people living in the house, so he fills his more frequently. Maybe they eat more. A lot of moving parts here. Depends on the stocking and the feeding. Let's see here. Saline has 50 Mabuna and a 75. Wow. So they've been breeding like rabbits, I'm assuming. That's why you say it's their fault. Yeah, Mabuna are a little bit like your convicts, right? Let's see here. Nick Garcia, how thick of a substrate do you need to get anaerobic bacteria? You're going to get anaerobic you're probably going to get some near the bottom of almost any substrate patch, especially if it's fine, but certainly bigger, 1.52 millimeter, 3-4 millimeter. You're going to have to go deeper. I would say if you just look at YouTube videos on deep substrate, in particular in the saltwater world, these folks are running about 4 inches, in some cases 6 inches. You go to Father Fish, his dirted tanks. I mean, what has he got? He's got 6-inch substrates, right? In some cases. So I would say 4 inches would be a safe amount. That can get a little expensive on your bigger footprint tanks, right? I think I've got about 300, 400 pounds of substrate behind me. So M&C Aquatics says it's the Coingi that is corralling the fish, not the yellow Bucchromis rhodesiae yellow. I'm not looking, so I'll give him a little feeding. And in the genes, it's when I look at aggression, a fish that's chasing fish off is a little different in my mind from a fish that's trying to kill other fish. But I'll go ahead and hit it with a little bit of food. Let's see how that works. DSGF, do you ever reactivate carbon? Activated carbon tends to become exhausted, and by exhausted, it means like saturated. And at that point, if you go too far beyond that, I've heard it can start leaching things back into the aquarium. So, short answer, no. I don't run carbon in my tanks. I only run carbon after I've used meds for some reason, like in a hospital tank. I'll run some carbon for a month, and then I'll throw it out. I use the Seachem. They also call it matrix carbon. The stuff is amazing. It absorbs like a sham wow. I mean, it's just amazing how much it absorbs. Ronald learned about anaerobic bacteria in my first year of plumbing school. There you go. And I'll tell you, plumbing will come in handy if you want to set up a sump. Zach, what size is that aquarium? Zach says, I have 2 suns and a 2 sun looks like a 3000. Those are big units. Those are like FX6s, maybe bigger, with a nice digital readout, and polishing HOB and a deep substrate. That's going to be a very, it would seem to me, depending on the type of fish you're keeping, it's going to be a very dynamic, very healthy environment. You have a lot of filtration, a lot of aeration, right? With the outputs of the 3000, probably creating some surface tension breakup. Your HOBs creating surface tension breakup. That's a pretty good setup. And you've got the ability to service one while allowing the other ones to keep running. You also have backup because if, let's say, one of the 3000s was to go down, the other one would do a pretty good job until you got that other filter fixed or replaced. Yeah, Salient, if you are in a sponsorship arrangement with Higer, I would let them know and they will work with you to replace it, or they'll modify the product. They are responsive on that skimmer issue. So let's see if a little bit of food calms these crazy guys down. And then after that, we'll go ahead and give away some of the SERA probiotic in celebration of all the wonderful SERA products that were sent to me for my new discus tank. So let's see here. Now this says SERA catfish food, which, by the way, these green tablets, these wafers are the drive the fish crazy. But what's in here is a mix. It's got red wigglers. It's got a lot of North Fin. Some of that special. It's got some SERA. It's got some of that North Fin ben.o.cichlid approved super mix. So you've got veggies and you've got protein and you've got I've also got a little bit of bug, some of that bug food, whatever, what do they call that, bug food. I've got some of it over here. Bug Pro. It's got some Bug Pro. It's got a little bit of everything in there. It's got some sticks, some Cichlid sticks. Just a whole bunch of stuff. Let's throw a little bit in there and see if that gets them to cool their jets a little bit. Stuff smells pretty good. So that was a lot of food, but it's gone like in 15 seconds. All right. I'll take up some more of your questions. But first, I want you folks, when I tell you to, not a second before, I want you folks to tell me a number between, and the first one that gets it right wins the SERA probiotic. And I'll ship it out to you. And if you want some stickers, tell me as well if you're the winner. The Thank you for the Python jokes. So there's some noise outside. So give me a number between 50 and 75. 50 and 75. A number between 50 and 75. Go. First one that gets it right gets some SERA. A number between 50 and 75. Okay, everybody, stop. Stop, stop, stop. We're done. We're done. We're done. We have a winner. All right, let's see. I've got to be really sure I got the right one. Because a couple of you got it right. But who was first? Can you read that? 5-5. The year I was born. 5-5. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. Peas and haps forever. Were you first, peas and haps? I think you were. Tracy came in a close second. Yep, Ronald had it too. But peas and haps, I know I've got it somewhere, but send me your mailing address. Again, to ben.o.cichlid at gmail.com. I'm going to send you out SERA probiotic. Very, very cool. Very cool. Now, I want to introduce you folks to a video format that's going to be released here. I'm going to be monitoring this short video I'm going to play for you. I'm going to monitor it using this. This is called Litmi, L-Y-T-M-I. L-Y-T-M-I. And it's called Litmi Cozy Fit. Litmi Cozy Fit. And these are some real cool Bluetooth headphones that are extremely comfortable. They're open ear, so you don't seal up your ear canal, which isn't necessarily good over long periods of time, like editing a video. And they charge up really, really quick. They have a whole variety of touch controls, like answering the phone, muting, up and down volume, moving to the next track. You can do a lot of things with them. They have a charge case that tells you if they're ready to go. And the way they fit over the ear, they hold on really well, so I can ride a bike and listen to music, which I love, or I can work in the fish room and wear these. And monitor things and listen to music, and at the same time be able to hear if my wife needs me upstairs. It doesn't cover up the ear so strongly that you can't even hear a thing. You can see here the case has a green light going on, telling me that that we're good to go. You can also, I've had the phone playing music here in the fish room, and I've gone up to the second floor of the house and walked around, and I've still been able to listen to the music. So it has a tremendously long range. So again, these are a Cozy Fit from LitMe, and I'll go ahead and put a link under the video. I'll get the information from them. You can answer and end calls, reject calls, play and pause, volume up and down, all from lightly touching the headphones. So that's how I'm going to be monitoring this video I'm going to play for you right now. And so this is called the Aquarium Spotlight series, and it's going to be in some ways taking the place of the lap, the fish room lap. And in the fish room lap, I go over all of the aquariums, and so I feel a little bit rushed in trying to cover everything for you. So what's going to happen is I'm going to be doing individual tank spotlights. You probably saw the spotlight on the 300 that was just released. And let me go ahead and just bring it up here. It's just a little preview. So this is the Aquarium Spotlight series. And if you remember from watching the spotlight of the 300, I talked about everything from dominance and aggression to some of the signs of aggression, I think was the name of the video. So each video will have a particular topic to put in the thumbnail, but will be more of a broad look at what's going on in each tank. And in this video, I focused a bit on the signs of potential aggression, which you're seeing during the live stream behind me. I also talked a little bit about the wave maker, right? I talked a little bit about some of the equipment. I talked about algae control, and I talked a bit about certain fish like the Buccochromis, both the Notitania and the Rhodesii yellow. So I was able to spend a little time on each fish. And so what this Spotlight series does is it allows me to go ahead and present to you in a little bit more of a relaxed fashion what it is that's going on with each of the tanks. Here's a clip from the 210 Spotlight that's coming up probably within the next week. I can talk a little bit more about how the red shoulder is doing in that 210. I love the way the stripes have become so much more prominent since he was moved into that aquarium. Now, of course, we'll talk to you a little bit about Sally. Sally the Salvini. I think she's the prettiest Salvini on YouTube. What do you think? With that red belly, she is really a pretty fish. The little blue spangles on the top of the body. And she can be aggressive, but she's not crazy aggressive. In this particular video, I'm going to be asking you for some help to help me identify what's going on with one of my geos. One of my geos is showing something at the base of a fin that doesn't look right. And so in that video, I ask you for your help. On the 90-gallon Spotlight, of course, I'm going to spend a lot of time talking about the puppy dogs, those redhead Tapajos. But I also will get into the blue Congo Tetras and we get a rare look at the pleco that lives in that aquarium, which is usually underneath the wood. You never see that pleco. But boy, he was working that day. But usually he's under that Mopani wood from ZoomEd. But I'll talk to you in detail about the filtration and the future plans for that 90-gallon, including some recent developments with the UV sterilizer that's on that aquarium. And of course the camera hog, my red-spotted gold Severum. So watch for the Aquarium Spotlight on the 90-gallon. And of course there are artificial plants in that aquarium, because these fish are plant destroyers. One of my favorite tanks. I love the substrate in that aquarium. And of course I'm going to talk about the new tank, the discus. Those beautiful discus I got from Josh at Cunningham Tropicals. And all the plants that were put in from the aquarium co-op. You can see those plants are thriving. The fish are looking good. Some people have commented on how they're skinny. Your discus look too skinny. Well, I think when they're young, they're pretty skinny. Also, I do know that they are usually starved for a day before they're shipped. But they are eating like pigs. They are fattening up. And I will get into what I'm doing to fatten them up, and the maintenance schedule, and some details on what's going on with the filtration, and also the feeding. You can see there's a little crypt there that looks great in front of that rock, but the little discus fish are looking pretty good. I took the covers off of the intakes. I took the pre-filters off. I'll talk about why I did that in the spotlight. Look at this this lily here, this red lily, which has just gone crazy in the planted community, has suddenly shot up this shoot. Look at this thing. It's never done that before. Now, for those of you out there who know lily plants, tell me what's going on. Is it going to try and float a leaf? And I think it is the kind of plant that I could pull out of the substrate and they would live fine at the surface. But is it going to try and get something to go up to the surface like a lily pad? It's got that one single shoot. I think it's just really cool. But we'll talk about, on the spotlight on this tank, we'll talk about the plants, the new plants again from Aquarium Co-op, some of the new fish that were recently added, some of the old plants like that old Anubias, some of the old hornwort, some of the plants I picked up locally. We'll also get into my wonderful snail collection, and some of you have suggested that I get some clown loaches to get in there and start eating those snails, and I just can't go with that. I just love those snails too much. They're just too darn pretty for me to have them eaten up. I'd rather just take them to the local fish store, have them sell them. And of course I'll get into, apart from the snails, I'll get into the schooling fish, the rasboras, the red nose, the rummy nose, which I think are beautiful, and how I'm continuing to get these teeny snails. It just never stops. And it all started with just one snail. So at any rate, that's going to be the Aquarium Spotlight series. Let me know what you think. Do you think that's going to be better than doing the lap, where I try and get everything into one video? I think I'm going to be able to just spend more time and talk a little bit about what it is that's going on. So you put the headphones back in the case, and it tells you that you're still good with charge. They charge up very quick. So I'll put a Let Me Cozy Fit. I'll put a link underneath the video. If you're interested, take a look. They did send them to me, so full disclosure. But I do like them. If I didn't like them, I'd tell you. I think I can ride my bike. I like to listen to music while I ride my bike, but I don't like my ears covered with something inside the canal where I can't hear a car or a horn or something I should hear. So even though they're noise reduction, they still allow you to interact with the environment to some degree. So all right. So I think we're running about 15 minutes early. I have a 1 o'clock phone call I have to involve myself in. Let me know what you think in the comments about the Spotlight series. Congratulations to the winner. Now, Tiffany, it looks like Peas and Haps is going to be giving you the food, coming in a very close second with the number 55. So go ahead and send me your mailing address and the type of fish that you have. Let me know if you'd like some stickers to ben.o.cichlid@gmail.com. If you're on the stream and would like some stickers, let me know at that email address, okay? And there you go. Jeremy Moore, I like this new video series. I will definitely help us learn and know what you're doing or not to do. Very cool. Very cool. Zach, I mountain bike and I have those as well. Work great. Very, very cool, Zach. You know, I'm road biking now. My son just completed I think it was like an 80-mile mountain bike race in Bakersfield. During one part of the race, they actually go through a country bar. Hilarious. But I want to get back on a mountain bike. I really miss being on the dirt. It's something really different about just riding your bike in the wilderness. And so I'm going to start looking at Craigslist for somebody who gave up and maybe pick up a good mountain bike. So there you go, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in. You are the best. If anyone super chatted and I missed it, I'm sorry, I wasn't looking. But thank you to all of you who are here, who subscribe, who give it a thumbs up, who share my videos. Thank you to my wonderful moderators. Thank you to the Aquarium Co-op. Thank you to SERA. Thank you to LitMe for the Cozy Fit headphones. And that's it for me. I'll see you in 2 weeks. Next week, I'll be up at the Aquarium Co-op hanging out with Corey. So I'll see you in 2 weeks. Thank you so much for sitting in with me. And you rock, my friends. Bye-bye.